Yeah, in that case, yeah, I think we can go ahead and start streaming.
Okay, you're good.
Okay. Thanks a lot. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Finance Committee meeting of Tuesday, December 7th, 2021. It is 1:02 p.m. and we are live on a digital platform. Adam Yoder is going to do me the favor of putting together the roll call, which involves a bunch of new people. Adam?
Certainly. So we've got 3 members of council, members of the committee, Liz Mealy, Chair, Bonnie Katz, myself, Adam Yoder. Mayor Slaughter is with us. Council President Allison is out there. I'm just going to go down through here. Then we have Kevin Fink, 3 people over at RVT. Looks like Mr. Livermore, Mr. Winder, and Josh Warfel from IT over there. Tyler Dombrowski. Some of these individuals, I'm not sure where they're from, which is fine. We'll get that into the record when they are up. Looks like a Miss Kay Stank is here. Harrison Wolfarth. I'm going to mess up your name. I apologize. Chris Black, City IT. Mr. Johnson, I suspect from one of the auditing firms. Skip Mimi, Director of Community Economic Development. Chelsea Blair, Assistant Director from that department. John Sander, City Engineer. Joe Pavlock from Finance. Madison Kistler, one of our esteemed guests, and Molly Steele Shrimp, our Director of Human Resources. Peg, is that you on the 0873 line? Can't hear you if you're talking.
Don't forget
I think
Joe
we can assume
Nagy.
it is.
Yeah.
Don't forget Joe Nagy.
Yep,
Nagy.
and Joe Nagy. Sorry, Jill.
Did we call Tyler Dombrowski too?
No worries.
Yes, I did. So
Okay.
looks like it's everybody.
Okay. Fantastic. Thank you. That went a bit more smoothly that way. All right. So we're going to take the agenda ever so slightly out of order today. We're going to start with items 2 and 3 at the request of the mayor. So we have item number 2, a resolution authorizing a change in scope of auditing services between the city of Williamsport and Zelenakowski Axelrod LLC. Mayor Slaughter.
Yes. Good afternoon, Chairwoman Mealy, members of the Finance Committee. What you have before you is a resolution authorizing a change in scope of auditing services between the city of Williamsport and Zelenakowski Axelrod LLC. As I'm sure you recall, this was the original contract was approved a month or so ago, a little over a month probably at this point. They started to dive into a little bit the city. This is the auditing services on the city side. Once they started to get into it, the change in scope, the scope changed due to they're going to need a few more senior accountants. I provided the letter to City Council, and so this is just a change in that scope that represents the updated services that they will need to provide given the audit. And so we do have representatives here today from ZNA, Kim Stank and Corey Johnson, who will be able to answer questions related to that change in scope.
Excellent. Thanks, Mayor Slaughter. Just so that, I mean, the letter effectively said they had no idea how much it would be costing at this point. Well, I suppose first I should open it up. Ms. Stank or Mr. Johnson, would either of you like to address this a little further?
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. We did start to dive in, like Mayor Slaughter had indicated, and based on the conversations we were having and things we were made aware of, an audit is based on sampling by nature. We're going to be doing a lot more than just sampling to be able to complete the audit. And frankly, we just have no idea how much time that is going to take. I really don't know how else to answer other than to say that. We don't know what paths will be led down as a result of our test work. I've been doing this 25 years. I've had probably only a few of them that I would I'm sitting here at the very start saying, I don't know how long it'll take. It's going to take a while. You know, the audit will ultimately be delayed because of that, you know, depending on how quickly we can get records, but we're going to be looking at 10, 15 times more than we normally would in audit. We're going to be doing 100% verification of a lot of things that you typically don't do during the normal course of an audit. So that's really why the change in scope is necessary from our perspective.
So go over with me then, Mr. Johnson. I think the audit was originally quoted at something like maybe $65,000 for each year. And so you're saying 85? Yeah, I apologize. I don't
That's
recollect.
okay.
But you're saying that both of the years, presumably both 2019 and 2020, are going to cost 10 times more than that?
No, they will not cost 10 times more than that. That's not what I was trying to say. I apologize. I'm just going to say they're going to take a lot more time than we had originally anticipated. And how much time that is anybody's guess at this point. I don't know.
And both years you think will be as time consuming?
19 will be worse than 20, no doubt about it.
Okay, got it.
20 will be more time consuming than we would have originally thought, but 19 is going to be a rough one to get through. No way around that.
And 2021, which I think you're also contracted for?
Yes.
Can you
back on track at that point?
Got it. Can you audit those years concurrently, or can we really only audit 2021 after we've dealt with 2019 and 2020?
Yes, they do have to go in order. So it'll be 19's audit, then 20, then 21.
Got it. So when sorry, I'm partly trying to get a grip on this just because I know we have a September 30th deadline this coming year, 2022, for the 2021 audit. We're not likely to make that?
No.
Okay. Got it. And
we're going to do our best, by the way, but to be candid with you, very quickly. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll do your best. I guess I'm just trying to sort of understand the scope of the work, and you cannot utilize any of the can you utilize prior year audits with confidence, and or can you utilize any of the information gathered by Baker Tilly before they withdrew as the city's auditor?
No, absolutely not.
Okay, got it. So you're starting from scratch, huh?
Yes. Which
right.
Again kind of goes back into, you know, why it's going to take a lot more time, and I can't guess at that time, because usually you are starting at a certain starting point that we don't have right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. Then my last question for you is, to what extent are we looking at, just for the city from a budgeting perspective?
Sure.
Don't know how much it's going to cost us. What amount of the work do you think you're going to accomplish in this calendar year?
As much as we possibly can. I mean, it's going to depend on, you know, not only our staffing, the city's staffing, how available records are, all of those things. And, you know,
Right.
We're going to have to get a lot of independent verifications of things that we wouldn't normally have gotten.
Got it. Understood. And so then I think if I can swing from you, Mr. Johnson, to the mayor, Mayor Slaughter, how are we proposing to budget for this?
So we had, I don't remember off the top of my head, what we put in for next year's budget. What I would suggest is checkpoints as they start to get started with the budget. So once they hit, you know, if we want to, whatever council feels is appropriate, you know, $20,000, they check back in, let us know where they are with that once they hit another milestone. So we could do it that way to keep it, you know, if we get regular updates so we can see where they are, if we need to do line item transfers. Or if they, you know, once they get started, once they get to the 85,000, we can reconvene, or as they start getting close. You know, we can put a little extra money, obviously, during the budget process if we want to put a few extra dollars in for it. But at this point, I'm not really sure even what to put in there as a number. So,
Right.
I think my suggestion would be regular check-ins. Maybe, I don't know if Kim and Corey, if that sounds appropriate in their eyes. Maybe
Absolutely.
once a month at the finance meeting, or even, I don't know, once a month, if that sounds, right, maybe at the beginning here, middle of January, we could touch base again or something like that, and then go from there.
Yeah, I would suggest that we probably touch base toward the end of January, maybe just to give the auditors a little bit of time. I'm assuming that not much will happen over the Christmas season. So it might be wise to wait until the end of January. Joe Pavlak, you're out there somewhere. Looking at this year's budget, I'm seeing 55,000 budgeted for auditing service, but I'm assuming we must have some of the money because we were looking at paying, we were already looking at paying Zelenakowski something like at least 150,000 this coming year. Is there more funding for it out there somewhere in the budget and I'm missing it?
No, well, there is, because the funding was broken out into different funds. So for instance, the community development had a portion. There was a portion for RVT, and pensions, I think, were the other piece that broke out the entire contract.
Okay, got it. So we had the total amount budgeted in this year's budget for the original contract. But it's sounding to me like we need to, just in order to cover the city's bases, increase that somewhat substantially. What does that look like in the community development budget, Joe Pavlak?
I don't know. I don't know if I have their 2022 proposed budget.
Okay.
I know I had a version of it. I don't know. I thought that I'd heard it may change.
Okay. Yeah. Just trying to wrap my head around the, because if the implications aren't entirely to the general fund, then that's another question, I suppose.
Skip, sorry not to cut you off, Liz. Skip, are you able to answer that for community development side? And then Mr. Winder, are you able to answer that for RVT side? You're both out there.
Right now, I can't, I don't have that answer right in front of me, but I can get it to you here before Thursday.
Please do. I think that would be helpful, at least for me. Mr. Winder?
I can go get you that answer right now and have it be back here with it in about 1 minute.
Okay.
Thanks.
So Mr. Pavlak, you're telling me that RVT pays for part of the city's audit in addition to their contract with RKL?
Yes.
Okay.
They
Got it.
have. Because remember, they have
Yeah, they're included in the
all
audit.
their federal awards.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm just, I guess the better question for the administration to have settled by Thursday is the extent to which an additional cost of the audit gets spread equally between all the different places that it's, that all the different lines that pay for it. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I can work with Joe Pavlak to get that for Thursday.
Right, because what I need to know is if we're all budgeting an extra amount of money for the audit, to what extent that's getting divided equally amongst the lines. But to the point, it would seem to me, if we're looking at once monthly check-ins with the finance committee, that might be a good idea, at least initially, since it sounds as though there will be a lot happening on a monthly basis. Then I think we'll just have to evaluate to what extent that's necessary or to what extent perhaps it should be more frequent. Adam and Bonnie, what are your thoughts?
We can get at those also, we can get a financial update as well. So they can give us a number of hours spent on it and the price at that point.
Yeah, I think my concern, Mayor Slaughter, is that as we discussed during the last full council meeting, in a budget that doesn't have much extra money that we can pull from other places, we will need to make certain that we build in an appropriate amount of funding. Otherwise, it won't be as though we can just pull it from somewhere else.
Right.
right?
Yep.
So that's really the realistic number that we need for Thursday, is how much extra money we need to budget in the general fund. And then to what extent that's coming from the bottom line. So we can discuss that offline before that. We can do, it's not something we're going to establish here, but that's something we need to settle before Thursday. Okay, Adam and Bonnie.
Yes, Liz, it's me, Bonnie. Mr. Johnson, you're saying that you're trying to gather information from departments. Are there specific departments that you're having difficulty getting information from?
No, we have not started that part of the process yet. I'm saying I don't know how that's going to go.
But you don't have, okay, I misunderstood you then.
Sorry about that.
How have you, when you're saying 2019, how much have you dug into this yet?
We have spoken to as many people as we can to gather an understanding as to what's been happening. That's about all I can really say.
Okay, and as you stated that you could not use anything from Baker Tilly, even though they started in like the first half of the year?
We have sent a request out to them. Typically when there's a change of auditors, there's a review of the prior auditors' work papers from, for the new auditors. We have not heard back, and I guess with everything going on, we don't expect to hear back.
Legally, can they do that? Can they hold our records like that?
I think your solicitor would be the best one to answer that question.
Jill?
Go ahead, Councilman.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a major issue that we're going to have to work with the powers to be that are investigating things to get some of that information shook loose. It's something we just heard about the last week or so we got to get on that right away.
Well, I think to Bonnie's question, though, I mean, we're talking, I think what has kind of brought this to light, this was more focused on the general fund, community
Right.
economic development, both of which our previous auditor also audited. And I've been of the impression that up until this point, I understand that those could be impacted by the investigation going on, but I was not sure that they were being directly investigated. In that instance, could they also hold that information even if there is no impact with this investigation? I mean, I guess I don't know if it is a yes or no question, but that's what I think what Bonnie was hoping to hear one way or the other, and so would I. I don't know if it is. If it's not,
Well,
I know you'll tell me. But
I can give you a little bit of insight here, based on past similar dealings. When you look at the timing of this audit that we're discussing, you're trying to get as much done in 21 as possible. Any way you cut this with attorneys, they can defer this process for a while.
sure.
Not going to happen quickly. That's what I am going to tell you. So in terms of what we could look at and how useful it would be, the odds of that happening anytime soon are pretty much slim to none.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
so what you're really doing is you're starting from scratch from 2019, even though
Yes.
Baker Tilly did start half of that year.
Yes.
I mean, I would be able to argue all day you paid for that material, but if they want to obstruct, they certainly can, since they are part of the investigation. So
Yeah. The short answer is yes. The long answer is it's just a question of how long it would take to get it in the legal world. And
Yes.
that makes
Yes.
sense. And I completely understand that.
right.
And we don't have the time to wait for that because we have budgets to balance here.
Correct.
Okay.
Mr. Johnson, I don't know if you're able to or what, but so we're essentially starting an audit from scratch.
Yes.
Is that the scope change, or is there additional procedures outside of starting this from scratch that need to be performed that are also prevalent that are driving this?
Both.
So what other procedures do you need to do outside of starting an audit from scratch? Like what do the specifics of that look like? Because none of that was outlined in the letter. And I'm kind of curious what that looks like. And I'll fully admit, I'm not an auditor. I'm not an accounting professional.
Sure.
I can't sit here and help identify how much additional time it's going to take. But I am curious. I am curious to know what they look like. I think for
There's
a number
I'll give you
of reasons.
For instances, we were made aware of a lot of transactions that are going back and forth between various entities. So we're going to have to do 100% following all of them through, making sure they're recorded right on all sides. There's some doubt as to, that maybe some of the records may not be accurate that are sitting there. We have to get independent verification on that. We probably wouldn't have to go that far. And candidly, a lot of it's, you start down a path and you find something that takes you down 3 other paths. That I can't tell you exactly what those paths are right now.
Okay.
That's the best answer I have for you.
Yeah, no, certainly. I suspect that RKL's efforts for the current audit that they presented us earlier in the year that we accepted, I suspect that, does that help ease this process a little bit?
I would suspect so. I would suspect under professional standards, they'll share whatever they can share with us.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, and again, my whole point in that question is knowing the professional standards that they're using, and knowing that there was at least a clarity in direction, so to speak. I would hope that would help aid any of those efforts in verification, what have you, with suspected,
Yes.
transfers and what have you. So,
But remember, they only audited one entity. There's
understood.
other pieces.
Understood. I would think that they may perhaps have some items identified, though, of on their end, some of those transactions that were going back and forth. So you at least have a starting point, at least in that regard, to where you may not have to start from scratch. Hopefully.
We're hoping.
Okay.
I think the problem for me is this makes me really, really nervous for the cost of this, since you can give us no timeline or where we're going to be with this, or even when this is going to, if we can even meet the deadlines next year. And that really does make me nervous, the cost of this. And Mayor, I think you can understand, we are working on a really tight budget here, and this is a necessary evil, and I understand that. But when there's no bottom line here as far as not to exceed, we don't have a not to exceed with this because it's necessary. And, trying to mentally figure out where we're going to be with this financially does make me extremely nervous.
And I can, get with Joe Pavlak, Skip, and then also Kim and Corey, and see if we can get as much information for Thursday evening as we possibly can, to give us at least some sort of baseline to go off of. And so I'll work over the next few days here to see what information we can compile, at least for a starting point. And go from there.
Adam, Wonder, did you come up with any numbers?
Yes, so prior years, RVT's portion was roughly $7,200. This year, I completely understand that, it's gonna be a lot more in depth, et cetera. As long as we track RVT and we can show that it's related to the transit, we're not gonna have an issue exceeding that financially. And Jill, if I'm saying anything wrong on how we should address it as far as tracking it, please jump in. But financially, RVT can, easily pay double what they have in years past and even a little bit more than that.
Yeah, and we can coordinate, Adam, with the auditor to make sure how they're tracking their time, just so that we can pass that on to our audit. But I don't have a problem with that legally as long as it's being tracked internally and externally.
Right. And Jill, since we put the rescue plan money all in operating, even if we had to use some of that to cover this cost, we're good there, correct?
It's an eligible expense. Yes.
Yeah, because we put the full 7 million in operating, so.
Yep.
One last question for me, Mr. Johnson. If you would have responded to your, if you would have responded to our RFP completely, doing a whole fresh new audit, not including obviously the questions surrounding between RVT and general fund, what would that price have looked like? Because it's not a perfect quantity to budget off of, but it gets us closer.
I understand the shoes all of you are sitting in. I want to make sure I say that and I sympathize with that. It would have been hourly rate. That would have been the only way to do it on our side, or we wouldn't have proposed.
Gotcha. And I don't know if this is even feasible. I don't even know how comfortable I would be with this, given, you responded to an RFP and, given the circumstances now we're looking at changing it or what have you. But I guess for the sense of expedientness and making sure we do get 2021 done on time, should we look at amending your contract and maybe having somebody do 2021 separately, just so that you are able to focus on 2019 and 2020 completely and clearly, and then we could get 2021 done on time. Is that something that we should look at, Mayor Slaughter? Have you considered that? And again, I don't want to, Mr. Johnson.
Here's your
You
issue.
have to go
I can speak to that.
consecutively, I believe. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Corey.
Yeah, that's where I was going. I mean, another firm, let's say you hired somebody to do 2021, just for example's sake.
Yep.
Without our 19 and 20 being done, they would have to come in and basically audit 2 years. They would have to audit all your beginning balances for 2021. That's why my comment and Mayor Slaughter's comment, it has to go consecutively.
Yeah. So we're
There's no
screwed.
way around it.
Yeah,
I
we're
understand.
fickle either way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And, everybody I think here knows, the city, it's not a small entity. It's very big. It's complex, a lot of manners, and which makes more to look at. I don't know how else to say it.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Well, we appreciate your honesty, Mr. Johnson, if not perhaps your answers. I think we understand the elements of right. The city's audits have to be completed in order. Otherwise, you can't have confidence in the results of the 2021 audit without knowing that it was based on the results of accurate 2019 and 2020 audit. That said, I think that we are eager to get a better sense of exactly what was happening, what has been happening moving forward. So we will appreciate hearing from you in January on this and seeing sort of what progress you've been able to make. And obviously, to the extent that we're at all useful in this matter, the members of the Finance Committee are available by phone or in person or by email to discuss with you anything that you might need to know from us. Bonnie, Adam, do you have any further questions or comments?
No, Liz, I don't.
No.
Okay. There isn't a whole lot to say about this item except that, or I guess, Mr. Johnson, the one thing that we would ask of you as you get into this process a little bit is if you can provide us with a more accurate sense of the overall cost and timeline for the audits, we would appreciate.
Absolutely.
I know that certainly once you get a certain amount of the way through 2019, things should start to look a little clearer, moving forward. And, and at that point, if you can try and give us a heads up, but that would certainly be helpful, just so that we can begin to plan and strategize for when this is all behind us. And
I think something that's that's important to keep in mind here, kind of given where some of the questions lie. Those same questions are around in 2020 as they are in 19. So keep that in mind. I hate to throw more bad news, but that's as honest with you as I can be.
No,
Things have to be verified
that.
beyond normal audit scopes in 19. The same thing is going to need done for 2020.
Right. We've seen some of that. I mean, we already had a discussion with RKL about RBT's audit that they're performing, and it was a lot of the same discussion. I think we're all more or less on the same page here. It's just, us still trying to wrap our heads around exactly the scope of what's taking place, and I think you're in the same boat. Yeah. So we'll look forward to discussing further with you in January and seeing if we've managed to make any progress on knowing kind of what we've been getting into, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it. Okay. If there are no other questions, then Adam and/or Bonnie, I take a motion.
Make a motion, we forward to the full body of council with a positive recommendation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Then moving on to agenda item number 3. We have a resolution accepting a donation from the Pennsylvania College of Technology Concrete Science Club. Mayor Slaughter.
Yes, good afternoon again. This resolution is accepting a donation of 7 concrete benches from the Pennsylvania College of Technology Concrete Science Club. They reached out to the city. They have 7 benches, and they actually, from my understanding, and I know we have representatives here, Harrison, and I apologize, I don't know how to pronounce your last name either, but he is here. And from my understanding, the benches with the stain actually appear to be wood, but they are concrete. So they would obviously hold up much better over the weather elements, etc. And so this is a no cost to the city. This would be a donation on behalf of Penn College to the city. And at this point, we do not have any specific location. If the donation is accepted, but we would obviously, look at the benches and work with council and others to see where we would like these benches to be located throughout the city. And Madison Kistler is here as well, and Harrison Forth from Penn College, the Concrete Sciences Club.
Fantastic. Thanks, Mayor Slaughter, and thanks to Penn College for bringing this to us. And Mr. Wolforth, now I understand your mask.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sure. Do either you or Madison want to address this at all? You want to? Mr. Wolforth, are you?
Yeah, I'm sorry if my connection's unstable here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Or yes, ma'am. Sorry, my connection's real rough here. Yeah, so the proposition is to donate 7 benches throughout the parks selected by either Slaughter or just Mr. Slaughter or whoever wants to kind of be involved in that process. And can you hear what I'm saying?
It was a little choppy, but it sounds a little better
This
now.
connection's not working. Okay. Sorry about that. And so it's just kind of on behalf of the college here that we'd like to donate these in the club, because our mission here is to kind of help shape the community through like service and community. And I don't want to talk too much here, but I know you know him, Mr. Slaughter, and he kind of helped get this whole thing rolling. So really just a thanks to him and the Pennsylvania College of Technology, who helped to they were kind of on board with this whole thing. The SGA, Student Government Association, approved our funds to donate these benches. So they're all ready to go, and yeah, we're just looking forward to getting that done. I don't know if Maddie, you had anything else you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, we're just really excited to be able to do this and to be able to put our work out there. So we're in the process of making all the benches now. We have everything poured. It's just we have to put them all together. And we're leaving for winter break soon. So once we come back, that'll be like our main project for the spring, is to get all of them done.
That's fantastic. Thanks so much, guys. We really appreciate it. This, has always been something I've sort of that have hoped to see in sort of collaboration with Penn College, in part because I think it provides maybe just a little bit of opportunity to kind of be creative and engage in public works for you guys, and of course it benefits our citizens immensely. So we really appreciate that time. And Mayor Slaughter, I can't imagine we'd think about rejecting this gift, but I will defer for other comments to other members of the committee.
Liz, from me, Penn College has done a lot of work with the Veterans Park, and which we've always appreciated tremendously. What's amazing with this project right now is I have to say about 12 years ago, we tried to establish some kind of a working relationship to do something like this in the parks with Penn College. And due to lack of the right communications, we were never able to see the project go through. So to have it come forward now, I am really thrilled. I really am. Because having cement benches are going to be permanent. We don't have to worry about any kind of destruction, because anything that we've done with wood in the past has been a problem. And to have the concrete is going to be fantastic. And thoroughly appreciate the working relationship with the college and the city, and everything that Penn College has done for the city, like I said, also with the Veterans Park. So thank you very much.
Adam, anything further?
No comments for me. For the record, I'll be abstaining, given that Penn College is my employer.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, never mind. That should have occurred to me.
No worries. It's yeah, no worries.
Okay. Well, in light of that, Bonnie, if you said your piece, if anyone else out there have anything to offer up?
I will make a motion, Liz, that we pass this on to the full body of council with a very positive recommendation.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
And Adam, you probably in from for the record as well. Anyway, with one, so that's two yays, Janice, and one abstention. Okay. All right, then moving on. Thank you, Maddie and Harrison for joining us today and for representing your club. And thank you so much for the benches. They will be beautiful in our parks, and we really appreciate it.
Would you like us to leave any information there too? Just saying contact or?
Sure, I think.
Harrison, or sorry, Councilwoman, if you might, if you just want to email to me and I can send it to all of council, that's easy, if that's the easiest.
Yeah, that's what I would do, Harrison. That'd be great. We'd really appreciate it. Especially if maybe we could look at working on projects in the future. That would be awesome.
Sorry to kind of cut in there.
Yeah, no, that is just fine. Yeah, please, any contact information you can provide, any information about the benches would be awesome.
Sure.
Especially look to figuring out where to place them in the spring. Okay. All right, we're looking forward to it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, then I think we're going to jump back on the agenda to item number 1, because we've got distinguished guests all over the map here, but I know we've got a couple of folks who are here for item number 1, a resolution for various insurance needs for policy year 1122 through 1123. Mr. Pavlak?
I'm going to turn this over to Jill Nagy and Kevin Fink. They wanted to get it on the agenda for this week, knowing that it was the last scheduled agenda of the year. And I was trying to get them deferred to the specially scheduled meeting next week, but it appears that they're here now. And if everyone's in agreement with what they present, I can revise and update the resolution with the numbers that they have.
Well, it seems as though perhaps what we should do is have a look at the resolution with the numbers for the 16th, but review it in finance today. If that's,
That'd be fine, yep.
that seems like it might be a bit more appropriate to give the other members of council a little bit of time to absorb the numbers. But if Jill and Kevin are here today, then we can talk about this today, and then we won't need to review it next week in a finance committee meeting. Perhaps we won't need to have a finance committee meeting. Please say that's the case, Joe. Anyway. Okay, Jill, Kevin, what have you got?
Thanks to the committee for indulging us. We're always moving very quickly with your last meeting at the beginning of the month. We wanted to get as much together as we could in case there is any questions on the proposal. So it is good that you're having another council meeting. But for what it's worth, we do have the numbers. Based upon the insurance market, I'm very pleased with the renewal. I know there is an increase, but based upon the market and based on what I'm seeing with other clients, this really shows that how much the administration worked to clean up a lot of the things that we reported to you last year that was problematic. So I do want to thank all the staff for really working hard to clean up a lot of that stuff that travelers wanted to see cleaned up. That really helped me. It's always difficult to scramble to get the inventory in every year in November. It just is what it is part of this process. But I did want to let council know that we had talked about some deficiencies last year. A lot of those were worked through. The two things that there's not much I can do about it, nor could staff, is the status of the levy. There's certainly a lot of funding issues that are getting in the way of doing the repairs timely. We had a really good conference call 2 weeks ago with the county and with John Sander to hopefully clean a lot of that stuff up moving forward. Again, kind of out of our hands until we got some funding in place. And the other thing, which is a broken record for us, is a lot of the police liability claims. Again, the chief has done a good job working through a lot of those issues, but I can't clean up the past. As we move forward, we're certainly cleaning up things, but we're still going to be stuck with some of those things haunting us for a bit of time from an insurance standpoint. So with that, I'll let Kevin run through the numbers with you. I know you have a packed agenda, but at least we can give you a start on where we are.
Okay.
Thank you, Jill. Yeah, I'm not sure what council has or the finance committee has in front of them. I tried to put together a shorter summary rather than the extensive document that was sent to Mr. Winder, Mr. Pollock, and Ms. Steele Shrimp. But do you have the council summary in front of you?
I do. Well, that with the pricing, do you mean,
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes. It's got your current schedule, a state, kind of a summary state of the insurance market, and then the premium history and formal pricing and some of the major changes between this year and last year. Is that what you have in front of you?
Let me defer to other members of the finance committee.
I don't have any of that information.
Okay.
Bonnie, this is Bonnie.
Bonnie, then it'll be a little bit harder to follow along, but just to give, well, I'll try to do this as, I guess,
we
succinct as
had gotten information that had no final pricing on it, Kevin, but that's not what you're referencing, correct?
Correct.
Okay, all right, then I don't know if perhaps you could, one of you guys could send that out to us. We can try and get it loaded up here as quickly as we can. But in the meantime, please go on with the
Well, I will
presentation.
try, go through this then as succinctly as I can. Just to give you a frame of reference, currently the city's spend for its property and liability package, excluding the workers' comp and cyber liability, runs 382, in round numbers, $382,000. The cyber liability is $9,900, and the workers' comp is $491 plus about $10,000 in taxes and fees that are a function of the state. It's nothing to do with the insurance pricing on it. So you've got a total spend of about $893,000. The renewal for the package is up 3%. So from 392, that includes the cyber, also from 392 to 404. So it's about a little over $12,000, a 3% increase. In this marketplace, and with the city's loss experience, it's favorable. And I'll explain what's going on in the marketplace in a little bit. The workers' comp, the payroll's up 3.2%. So it's effectively a 2.6% increase, but the total cost is up 6%. Your total program, and you put it all together, with taxes and fees for the included with the comp, is not $937,000, or about a $43,700 increase, which is 5% over the expiring. To give you a little background on the insurance market, 2020 was, most people, all they thought about was COVID and all the headaches related to that. 2020 turned out to be another record year for the number of billion-dollar disasters in the United States. There were 22 of them. We had enough hurricanes that they ran out of the alphabet, and I believe 6 of them hit the coast. But again, most of this, you didn't see as much of this on the news because everything was, COVID related. On top of that, you have the civil unrest, a lot of it in cities that, people might expect it in Detroit or LA or Chicago, but they don't expect it in Kenosha, Wisconsin. And then again, you have COVID related loss. Now, most of that was denied by insurance companies, but it still involves a tremendous amount of expense on the litigation. So as we entered 2021, the market continued to be firm, at least throughout most of it. You may remember we started off with the Houston freeze, the winter storm Uri, and we still continue to have, I'm not sure how I feel about global warming, but I cannot deny the empirical data that says we are having more weather-related events in the US than we've ever had before. And it's further challenged with social inflation, the somewhat anti-government, anti-business sentiment out there that has resulted in increased litigation, more plaintiff-friendly judgments, and higher jury awards. And then with law enforcement in the public sector, all of our trading partners are saying they're seeing a significant increase in incurred losses in that area, and the insurance companies have growing concern about the erosion of qualified immunity. It hasn't happened yet, but there's concerns that this might be coming down the pike. And they can't offset any of these, poor performance with their losses because of the investment rate environment. Because I'm sure the city knows we're in an almost 0% rate environment right now. So the money that's invested can't, they have to make an underwriting profit. They can't offset it with investment income. Now, the one good thing, we're starting to see, I guess, a decrease in the rate of acceleration, or I guess a better way to put it, maybe a moderation in the amount of rate increases in most major lines of coverage, with the exception of cyber liability. Cyber is probably is the most significant area right now, especially in the public sector. We're seeing increases anywhere from 40 to 100% or more. I have a handful of clients I can't even obtain renewal terms for them. No one will write their insurance. We used to have a dozen different insurance markets. Now there's maybe a handful that will do, city or county or other governmental type accounts. And a lot of this is just due to, government has probably been, underfunded as far as their infrastructure for protection from this. The work from home environment's less secure, and ransomware events have gone through the roof. One of our major trading partners told us that in the fourth quarter of 2020, for every $1 of premium that came in, $3 went out in losses. That's not a sustainable business model. Now, we think that rate increases will probably persist into next year. Social inflation is still a concern, but there is more capital moving into our business, and I think that it's going to moderate. And rate reductions may be attainable next year if you can make yourself, an attractive risk for the insurance market. But given what's going on with the whole insurance market, and I even, like I said, the summary I put together for council, well, I hate to have guidance that comes from one of our competitors, just so that that it's not me saying this by myself. I could put a dozen articles in there, but I just put a recent article from one of our competitors that talk about commercial insurance prices in the United States rise 14% in the third quarter of 2021. So that's a little bit of background on the marketplace. We've got what, the cost, you'll see that in writing if you get the council summary that I prepared. I would tell the finance committee, put this into perspective, ignoring the deductible increases. Your renewal cost for 2022 is 13% more than pre-Gallagher 4 years ago. So you're looking at roughly 3% a year. I mean, if I had my way, insurance companies would never get a raise. We'd drive their costs down to where they were probably near unprofitable. But some of this is outside of our control. We try to present you in the best light we can. And I'll echo what Jill said. Adam Winder and John Sanders were helpful. They did a really nice job with one of the higher level insurance execs with the levy. But in any event, that's where we are with the costs on it. There are some coverage changes. The law enforcement liability deductible is being increased from 10,000 to 25,000. That's in part marketplace. It's in part driven by just concerns with the overall police department. This is not a reflection of the current chief or anyone. It's just, unfortunately they inherit what they have, but I don't think it's a secret that, the employment claims have been problematic out of the police department. But the deductible for law enforcement liability is up. They are adding an exclusion to the general liability policy that excludes any loss arising out of the levy. And again, that we're hopeful, with John's involvement now to have quality written updates on and see some progress on it, but that's been a major concern. Doesn't matter whether it's real or not, the perception that the insurance carriers have is that nothing's happening on it. And I think John helped us to rectify that things are starting to move forward now. One bit of surprising news, the cyber liability deductible was reduced from 10,000 to 5,000. That's mostly a function of just a threshold for budgetary operating expenditure rating, but the city cyber is much more favorable than almost, I guess you'd probably be in the top 5% of favorable renewals I've had for cyber. The only other major change, City Hall, now that it's vacant, that is not in what's called a blanket limit. You've got a blanket limit of over $100 million. So if you've got a building scheduled for $2 million and it turns out it was $4 million, you get paid $4 million because it's part of the blanket limit. City Hall's been pulled, and you get paid on a replacement cost basis. City Hall's been pulled out of that blanket. It's individually scheduled at about 21.5 million for the building. I left a couple $100,000 in there for contents. As I understand it, the police moved into the museum and everyone else moved to, was it the 1500 West 3rd address? But if those values need to be adjusted, I'll need Adam or Joe to help me make whatever adjustment needs to be done. The building is going to be on an actual cash value basis, which means there's a deduction for depreciation, and they've increased the deductible on City Hall from 5 to 25,000. But outside of that, everything else is consistent with what the city's had in the past. So that's as quickly and succinctly as I can do it. I hope I didn't bounce around too much. It's much easier to do this if you have something in writing in front of you.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. I think we look forward to seeing that, Kevin. But thank you for the succinct for the summary. It's helpful one way or the other. And it looks like Joe just sent it out to us. To the point of not actually being able to look at this, what is the total increased cost of our insurance this year?
To be exact, for the entire program, $43,741, which represents a 5% increase over the expiring program.
Got it. And Joe Pavlak, we did not budget that so far, correct?
We did. I need to make sure that, I need to check it with last year's numbers, but I did include a 5% increase along with additional increases for the increased in deductibles that were discussed.
Okay, got it.
So I can give you for Thursday a comparison of year to year, or showing the 2022 budget and how it falls within the proposal that was just discussed.
Okay, so that is not something that we need to adjust in the budget come Thursday.
I don't believe so, but again, these numbers came out early yesterday afternoon, and I haven't really dove into
Got it.
that yet.
Okay.
So I'll have it for Thursday.
Okay, thanks, Joe. Adam, Bonnie?
No, considering one statement that you made, Kevin, was the 13% increase from Gallagher. What year was that?
Over the course of, Gallagher first became involved in your insurance program January 1 of 2019. So in 2018, prior to our involvement, your insurance spend was about $828,000. So if you take the renewal today at $936,791 versus the $828 you were paying prior to our involvement, that's a 13% increase in cost. That's ignoring the deductible increases and changes. I'm not going to mislead you on that, but you figure over 4 years, that's roughly around 3% per year, and the marketplace has probably been going up double digits each of those years. And the city has, had a less than stellar, experience with its losses over the course of this time period. So from that perspective, I think it's favorable.
I didn't, between you and I didn't think it was that bad. And also the increase from last year to this year. I know it's a sum of money, but considering everything that you put together, it's not as huge as what in my own mind, I thought it would have been more, truthfully. The 10,000 to 25,000, the law enforcement increase, that's, but then we come to the cyber, which then we're down 5,000, and then you go into the city hall, and there's so many different areas here.
Yeah, like I said, the law enforcement's just partially a reflection of the insurance marketplace. You'll find. Sorry, that's my clock. You'll
Or
find,
Kevin.
You'll find few governmental entities of the size of Williamsport that have law enforcement deductibles of under $25,000, regardless of how good their loss experience is. And like I said, I'm not sure on a public forum it's the best. We can go into detail maybe in private session, but the experience in the law enforcement does not reflect from the employment practices, just doesn't reflect favorably for the police department. And you've got an environment now, with what I would call a pretty much anti-police sentiment. It's just reflective of what insurance markets think is coming down the road, and they want their clients to have more skin in the game. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. The one that really did surprise me was the cyber, though. With all the attacks on cyber, you would have assumed that would have stayed either the same or increased. Okay.
No, I'm just saying,
Okay.
I'm shocked too, because I tell you, I was not, as soon as I had this approved and released, I made sure it was locked in, because this was supposed to be one of the program that RVT's in for the auto. The cyber's up, I think, 180% over expiring, and I didn't think we'd even get terms. I've got another one right now. I've got a large county here. I don't think I'm going to get terms for them. If you don't have multi-factor authentication and a number of other things going on, that's one thing that the city should be prepared for, is to bolster its cybersecurity controls over the coming years, because I see this area is not going to moderate. It's going to get worse.
Okay.
So we got a 1-year reprieve on this relative to what's going on in the rest of the public sector market for cyber.
So our IT should really ramp up here then to make sure that we're secure then.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you,
We
Kevin.
just so you know, Bonnie, we had some meetings with Josh and with the police department 2 weeks ago, just to be gearing up for that. So we're already preparing for getting some of those standards and protocols in place. So we're moving as fast as we can.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. I'm finished with questions right now.
Adam?
None for me. I'm good. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. It sounds like a good package, Kevin, albeit not the news that we, we're always hoping for it to be a zero increase, and we know that it won't. That's would just be a ludicrous expectation in this current environment. So we appreciate your hard work, and we appreciate the fact that we have coverage. That's always excellent news. And if there are no other comments from members of the Finance Committee, anyone else out there on the meeting who has something to say about this? Joe, anything you'd like to add?
No.
Okay, then I think we'll look, once we've had a bit more time to digest the information you sent, Kevin, we'll look at dealing with this probably on the, I'll discuss it with, Randy, are you still out there?
Yes, I am. I'm here.
Is it okay if we do this on the 16th, or would you prefer that we do it this Thursday?
No, the 16th is fine.
Okay, so Jill and Kevin, to the extent that you're planning to be available for that, or that I don't know that you need to be, but we'd be looking at it for the 16th. Okay,
That works.
all right, sounds good.
If there's any questions in the interim, please get them to me. I'll be happy to answer.
Sounds good. Thanks, Kevin, and thanks for all your hard work. All right,
you. You're welcome.
let's move along then. I think I'm going to do a little bit more rearrangement on the agenda, because I know that.
Hang on, Liz. We need to motion that.
We
Thank
need
you.
a motion.
I'm trying to move too fast. Bonnie.
No, that's okay. I'll make a motion before to the full body council, the positive recommendation. We'll keep it going.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, going to do a bit of further rearrangement of the agenda, just because I know that Adam Yoder has to jump off here at 2:30, and I'd like him to be around while we discuss item number 5, a resolution authorizing a contract for professional consulting services with CETA Council of Governments. Mr. Memmi, are you out there?
Good afternoon, council members. The Community and Economic Development Office is bringing you today a resolution authorizing a contract for professional consulting services with CEDACOG for fiscal year 2022. The total cost of the contract is not to exceed $59,500 for all administrative services. Within the contract that we did provide is a breakdown of all the elements and the costs associated with this contract. This is an allowable project cost by HUD. CEDACOG has the required expertise to help us manage the CDBG program for the city of Williamsport. This contract has been reviewed by Solicitor Lubin, and all the changes have been made. We are presenting this today for your recommendation. Chelsea and I are here to answer your questions, along with Tyler Dombrowski from CEDACOG.
Sorry, I was muted there. Thank you, guys. Adam and Bonnie, I'm gonna chuck this one to you. Adam, why don't you go first, just in case? Or if you don't want to, let's Bonnie do it.
Yeah. So the big question I have, we haven't typically done this in the past. Is that correct?
This is our first contract with CEDACOG, but we
Okay.
have done consulting contracts with M&L in the past.
Okay.
We won't be renewing with them.
Okay, so we typically do this. We're changing providers.
Correct.
Okay, did we RFP
And,
this?
and an increase in some of the services.
Okay, did we RFP this?
We didn't have to because of the fact that they are a quasi intergovernmental entity, and also they are recognized under CoStars.
Yeah, well, I mean, we continuously, bring this up. Just because of that doesn't mean, and this is no disrespect to CEDACOG. They do a great job. They have done so for a while. I'm sure they're competitive, certainly, but nonetheless, fundamentally, we've hit this a number of times in the past 2 years on my time on council. Just because we don't have to do something doesn't mean we shouldn't. And then even with the CoStars thing, just because something is on CoStars does not necessarily mean it is the most cost advantageous to the city. So, I've gone around with Mr. Winder before with that. Mr. Livermore, I don't know that we've had that conversation before. You're new here, but, just so you're aware, these are questions that I typically bring up. Mr. Mimi, same to you. We should always be thinking about this, certainly. So that's the big thing that sticks out to me. The other thing for me is this comes out of the CDBG budget, correct?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Okay. I see all this is itemized,
Mhm.
which is good.
So just to go back over that again, Skip, did you say that this was a less expensive number than the entity that we're currently contracted with?
No, it's a little, it is more expensive than our contract with M&L, but it also has significantly more administrative services than what we had contracted with M&L in the past.
Okay, so what are the new items that we're contracting?
Tyler, do you want to go over it quickly if you can?
Sure. Yeah, Tyler Dombrowski with CEDACOG. As far as the contract is concerned, I can't speak to what you may or may not have had in the past with M&L. With City of Williamsport directly under U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for its CDBG program, there's a number of different plans that the city's obligated to complete, both on a 1-year basis and a 5-year basis. The 1-year basis plans are the annual action plan, which the city would be looking to get started pretty directly, is my understanding with how your schedule's set up. Doing that process from beginning to end is part of the scope of services. And then at the end of the program year, which is based on a 12-month period, there's an end of the year report that needs filed, also included in this contract. The reports are pretty lengthy as far as what needs to be written into them. Obviously, you undertake a number of projects every year. There's also a number of additional extra things that the city is obligated to do on an annual basis to show that you're going above and beyond just completing projects, but you're meeting the goals of the CDBG program. There's a 5-year consolidated plan that the city's obligated to do as well, which that is also built into this contract, and it wouldn't need to be done this year. You're a couple of years off on that, but this contract starts to set itself up for in the future, being able to fully finance paying for that 5-year plan, which I've done both the 1-year plans and the 5-year plans for the town of Bloomsburg and the borough of Berwick. They're both HUD entitlement communities. They're pretty significant lifts. The 1-year plans are, the 5-year plans are really big lifts. The city's also obligated to do a analysis of impediments fair housing plan every 5 years as well. That is not included in this contract. However, we would help facilitate that process with the city to get a consultant to do that. And there's annual things that you then need to be doing, which are covered in the 1 and 5 year plans, to continue to, again, make good faith effort to meet the goals of the CDBG program. So we would help the city with undertaking those various activities that are recommended. One of the big things that's been flagged to me and speaking with Skip and Chelsea was documenting compliance of your funded projects, both national objective and then just simply is the activity eligible. And that would sound simple enough, but a lot of times it is a lot of documentation that's necessary on that. There's a lot of gray areas with the CDBG program. So it would be our responsibility to work with the city to document those activities that they are compliant. Numerous policies and procedures that are necessary with the CDBG program, which we have a lot of experience in that side of things as well. This contract includes updating your various policies and procedures and plans and whatnot. General technical assistance is included as far as compliance reviews dealing with HUD staff. That's included for this grant contract here as well. And then as far as activity specific services, there's services included across the board for environmental review, as well as assistance with projects that are where you fund subrecipients, monitoring those projects, and then also Davis-Bacon prevailing wage requirements, monitoring that as well. Two things that are not included that are important to note, which is not traditionally how we've done things with our other communities at CEDACOG, but I guess given the unique circumstances of the city, we had to carve those out. One is project management, where a subrecipient is not involved, and then also financial management. And the direction that I received from Skip and Chelsea is those are union positions that so those duties need to be retained by city staff. So I know that's a lot of information very quickly, but I can answer any further questions if there are any.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dombrowski. Mr. Memi, just so that we all understand, what's the intent of increasing the number of tasks accomplished by a third party within the CDBG department? In the community development department.
Ms. Maley, the reason and the rationale of this is to make sure that we are in complete compliance with the programs of HUD moving forward, because we are pretty confident that somewhere in the near future we're going to have a monitoring performed here in the city. We're trying to establish that we're doing everything by the book and that we're moving forward, and then slowly we're going to look going backwards to see what might be missing within our files, so that we can demonstrate that we're doing everything correctly. Right now, we were very uncomfortable with what has been done in the past. And truly M&L did not provide, I'm going to say, about half of the services that we're looking for CEDACOG to provide. And also they're relatively close and we can reach out to them and talk to them immediately. I don't know if that answers all your questions, but we'll continue to try to answer them if you have specifics.
Okay, I mean, that somewhat answers my question, which I guess was simply related to why we were looking to amplify services provided outside of city government. That is to say, to spend more HUD funding on a consultant. I don't, to the extent that CEDACOG is performing these duties on a regular basis, and there may be some economy of scale involved with a lot of this reporting. I certainly understand that. I mean, I've seen these reports and they're epic, and I wouldn't want to do them. And if we can save money within the community development department by outsourcing this to an organization that does this on a regular, that's probably a wise idea. Is that part of what you were telling me?
Yes, ma'am.
Tyler?
Yeah. One thing I wanted to point out too, as far as our fee is concerned, again, I can't speak to the past, but as far as these various plans, the environmental review, if you ever see the advertisements that are necessary for the public participation side of things for these various documents, the ads that you'll see in the classifieds are quite large. Those advertisement costs are included in the number that's in this contract.
I'm not by any stretch questioning the cost of the contract, Mr. Dombrowski, although I appreciate Adam Yoder's comments about the RFP process. I'm just trying to understand sort of the goals of the community development department in terms of outsourcing a larger portion of the work to a third party. It sounds as though it's increased compliance and the ability to save money within community development. As long as those two things are paramount in our minds, I think and as long as, especially if those two things are possible simultaneously, but with one move, that is to say, utilizing CEDACOG as a consultant in this will both increase compliance and decrease costs. That's great. So that's helpful to me. Mrs. Katz, did you have questions?
Yeah, just one question. Under, when you said services not provided for grant management and technical assistance, what was the statement you made why you don't do that?
So the grant management and the financial management, generally we work with roughly about 30 communities for the CDBG program, and everybody else we provide really across the board services. We would not be under this current contract proposal providing project administration services for activities not involving a subrecipient. And then we also are not to handle the financial management of the CDBG program of the city. And the direction that I had received from Skip and Chelsea during the previous discussions on this topic are that those duties are held by union employees of the city, so that complicates CEDACOG potentially taking on those sorts of responsibilities either now or in the future.
Skip, when did this come about that they're held by union?
Ms. Katz, they are held by staff within our office already. One of them is Joe Reichenbach's. I don't want to use specifics, but he is our financial management person. So he handles all the financial management of those issues. And the other one is the work that Carl does for us already. So we already have staff in place to perform those duties. They are union employees, and we, at this point in time, would not need the services of CEDACOG to perform them, because they are services that we can manage within the staff, the existing staff of the office.
Just wanted to clarify that, Skip. Was this provided by M&L before or not?
No.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So, Skip, to a certain extent, while we're on this topic, what I would like to understand, I guess, a little bit is, I know that we've lost a handful of employees in community development over the course of the last year or two. Where does community development stand in terms of numbers of employees compared to where we were at maybe 4 or 5 years ago?
4 or 5 years ago, going back and researching the flow chart within community development, there were approximately 8 employees. Right now, there are 5.
Okay. And that includes community development just hired an office manager, is that correct?
Correct. That includes that office manager within the 5.
Okay. And so our intention is to utilize this contract with CEDACOG to not replace a couple of those staffing positions within community development?
This contract does not replace anyone within community development. It just enhances our ability to do the work that is necessary to meet the compliance standards of HUD and allow potentially us to perform some of the community development or economic development, let me rephrase it, economic development and other functions that council has requested that we do.
I guess what I'm asking is, you're telling me that the department's gone from 8 people to 5 people. Are we intending to make more hires in the department?
Not at this time.
Okay. So to a certain extent, some of the elements of this contract are replacing work formerly performed by members of the community development department.
That is a reasonable assumption.
Okay. Understood. Okay. I think to a certain extent, what I'm missing as a part of this discussion is an idea of the past and the future of the community development department, a narrative of sorts like the ones that I was requesting at last Thursday's meeting, or maybe last Wednesday's meeting, one of those meetings last week, so that I can kind of visualize exactly what our long range goal is there, and where this particular contract fits into it. Absent that, it sounds as though, like I said, if we can realize some cost savings in community development via outsourcing, and we can ideally achieve greater compliance as well through an organization that's familiar with all the reporting requirements for community development funds, then that's a great thing. Bonnie and Adam, are you inclined to agree with me on that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Then should we make a motion?
Make a motion be forwarded to the full body of council with a positive recommendation.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Then getting back to our agenda, Adam, just take off when you need to, and we will, we'll see you on Thursday. But getting back to our agenda, I guess, unless there's any reason to shift things around further. Anybody out there have anybody who needs to get out? I'll move
Liz, I
next.
do, if you don't mind. This is John, by the way. I got to run down to City Hall for something. Is it possible I could go real quick? It's really just a
Yeah,
typo.
that's fine. Okay, item number 4, resolution authorizing the filing of a multimodal transportation fund grant from Pine Street Reconstruction Project. Yes, this does sound familiar, John.
Yes,
So what could I?
Sure. This was passed a couple weeks ago on 11/18. I flat out simply had a typo on the title of it. Obviously, the granting authority is not the Commonwealth Finance Authority. It is in fact PennDOT in the event we were to be awarded the grant. When we sent this in with the grant package, the grantors, PennDOT, noticed it, and I spoke to Austin. He suggested a new resolution. So that's why I'm here today. Project has not changed whatsoever. It's simply just a typo.
Okay, sounds good. Bonnie, Adam, if you're still out there, anybody have a motion on this?
I make a motion, we pass this on to the full body of council with a positive recommendation. And I don't see Adam.
Okay, then I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Sander,
Thank
get a
you.
move on.
Thank
you. Bye. Okay. Item number 6, then, a resolution authorizing River Valley Transit to adopt an updated RKL LLP auditing services agreement. Mr. Winder?
Yes, good afternoon. Much like you all heard with the city's audit earlier, the 1920 audit for RVT, RKL was awarded as the auditing firm to perform the audit. They have recently come back and said that due to portions of the audit being outside the original scope of work, there was an increase of $9,500 to the original quoted amount. So this would require council's approval to release payment to them for the $9,500. It is due to the debt piece of everything. And I'll hopefully answer any questions you may have.
Thanks, Adam. So just to understand, the RKL audit is completed, correct? We finalized it?
We are to the point where I just have to do a signature on the letter they sent me, have Mr. Allison sign it, and have the CFO here sign it, and they will issue the final audit.
Okay. And for some reason, the fact that the cost of the audit was increasing by 25% didn't come up until now?
Correct.
Or 20%. And do we know why that is? Sorry, I'm just had a conversation with Zelenakowski about the cost of their audit and how it will be increasing. I'm trying to understand why we weren't notified by RKL earlier of the increased cost, or is it simply that they didn't know what the increased cost was until now?
According to the email that we received from Mr. Kraft, the documentation level of reviews associated with issuing the adverse opinion is significantly higher than an unmodified opinion. The adverse opinion created a number of additional documentation requirements and hurdles that we have been working through.
Okay. I guess what I'm asking is this the first time they mentioned that they were going over budget on this? Or had they given you an understanding that it would cost more?
Nope, this is the first I actually knew about it.
Okay. That certainly.
They did note in this that they are writing off $18,000 worth of their time at this point.
I saw that. Yeah. No, I'm not questioning whether or not it's fair.
Right. No. I understand what you're saying. It's puzzling why we recently found out, for sure.
Okay. I guess when we're so close to having completed the audit and when I think a couple of us were under the impression that it was completed. Bonnie, did you have any questions on this?
No.
I mean, obviously, Mr. Winder, I think was RKL aware when they initially accepted the contract for the RVT audit that it would be more complex than one might have, than they might have anticipated on the surface, Mr. Winder?
I don't believe.
Okay. So they sort of walked into it blind like Zelenakowski?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We've blinked a couple of auditing companies this year, huh? All right. Yeah, under the circumstances, I mean, I'm assuming you've seen documentation to justify the increased cost. I mean, I saw the document you provided to us. Have you seen additional costing numbers from them?
Not necessarily additional costing numbers, just the extensive amount of issues they ran into trying to finalize everything, meet PennDOT and FTA's requirements as well. After the meeting, if you'd like to give me a call, I can explain a little more off the record or off the public.
Sure.
Forum.
Yeah, I'm just trying to wrap my head around it. And where is this coming from, Adam?
This is budgeted within our operating funds. We do budget $50,000 for audit.
Okay, got it. So we're still under that $50,000 cap
Yes, ma'am.
in that case. All right.
I don't know about you, Liz, but come 2023, I hope the auditors that we have will at least be able to give us a clear number instead of, the add-ons. Because by the time 2023 comes along, we should be all compliant in everything.
Yeah, well, it's just strange to have gone through.
Right. I would hope
Better than a decade of clean, unmodified audits.
Exactly.
Only to suddenly have coming to you saying they have no idea when they're going to be able to sort this out. Anyway, sorry.
My hope
Today with
is-
audits is very frustrating.
My hope is to bring an engagement letter for RKL to do the 2020, 2021 audit for RBT forward very soon and have a clear picture on what the cost would be for that.
That would be great. When you say this is funded from your operating funds, Adam, you say it comes basically as a pass through from the state.
Yes, the state and federal government.
Got it. And we anticipate the RKL audit in 2020, 2021 being the same thing, correct?
Yes, I would say it's probably going to be around the $45,000 mark.
Yeah, well, that would be consistent with what it was this year. Okay. All right. Bonnie, anything else?
Nope, I'll make a motion to pass this on to the full body of council with a positive recommendation.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Mr. Winder, moving on. Item number 7, a resolution authorizing a service agreement between RBT and Comcast Cable Communication Management LLC for data networking.
I had Mr. Warfel here because he is the IT extraordinaire, so I am going to let him present this one so that I don't confuse anyone.
Awesome. Thank you, Adam.
Oh, you're just
Thank
letting
you.
Josh confuse people. Go for it.
Yeah. So I will try not to confuse you as well. And thank you, Adam, and members of council. So what we have before us, and hopefully to be forwarded, would be that a network connection between the River Valley Transit Garage and Office facility and the Trade and Transit Center complex, or campus, as you could call it. And what this does is this allows us to finally tie together the buildings as one, and for things to work as you would expect as one operation. So, for example, one thing is we do have a fully integrated building facility video system and building access control system. But because we do not have connectivity between the buildings for, say, at least dedicated connectivity, we are not able to view facility footage from the transit center, for the transit center from our garage and office complex. So it leaves our operations department, which our dispatch and vehicle operations is stationed in our garage and office. It leaves them pretty much blind to what's happening at the transit center. So there's a lot of time that they have to spend driving down there to monitor buses, monitor drivers, driving back up, whereas this will allow them to see it live real time for camera footage, as well as for if we get a comment, public comment, or somebody calling in for footage, or the police needs some footage pulled. Now we will be able to pull it from River Valley Transit. So that's one of many things for cybersecurity liability renewal. Another thing with that is security. And currently we do have some limited connectivity between the facilities. It's over what's called a virtual private network, or VPN. And so what that means is currently our connectivity is very slow between the buildings. It is not controlled by us. It is going over the public internet, but it is secured. But it is a lot slower. So it doesn't allow us to operate real time the way we need to. We don't have the reliability we need. And also, one thing we do have to put into place is a disaster recovery plan that's due to state and federal requirements, where we have to have a disaster recovery plan, not only from the operational standpoint, but then the IT standpoint to back that up. So for example, I mean, these are changing times. Hopefully it'll never happen, but let's say our garage and office complex is leveled and we can operate from here. We need to be able to tell the state and federal government that, yes, we can operate from our trade and transit center in its place, and that everything will be operational. So this allows us to, in real time, maintain backups of our systems, and that if something happens to our primary systems, we can roll over secondary to the trade and transit center. There's a slew of other operational efficiencies that we gain through this, things that we're not even thinking of at this point. But to kind of give you an overview of what we're asking, we're just kind of finally bringing our River Valley Transit up to on par with entities such as Penn College, like Cumming College, the Water Authority, like Cumming County. There's a slew of other entities that use this type of connectivity to connect their buildings. every school district in the area. We're just finally getting on this. It's just been fortunate enough that we were able to finally get this budgeted through the state and through being able to cut other expenses. We're finally able to get this budgeted. We've been trying to for years. But this is kind of one of those necessary evils that you have when you're running multiple facilities. So I guess I can kind of open this up to any kind of questions you may have.
Great, thanks, Adam. Bonnie?
I think that was straightforward, Josh.
Oh, thanks, Josh. But Josh, the only question I would have is the funding for this is coming from where?
So Adam can speak a little more, but I have been told by our CFO, it's from our consolidated operating assistance funding from PennDOT, our COA from the state. So is that 100% state's funding, or is there a local match that's already been approved?
The operating funding is all carries the local match as well, which has already been approved by the city of Williamsport.
Yep. So that's how it's being funded.
Okay, got it. I figured that was the case. Just wanted to make sure, of course, that this wasn't something that wasn't funded in the conventional manner for RVT. And this has been consequently, Adam, a goal of the state for a while. That is to say, it's a shared goal that we have, bringing ourselves up to speed technologically with the state and the feds.
Yes, ma'am. It kind of rolls in with our Avail project that the state funded. As Josh said, it makes it so that there's roughly 13 cameras on a bus. They instantly download at the transit center. It streamlines the communication for real time on where the buses are at all times. It's been a major goal of the state.
Yep. So the disaster recovery portion is more so as well, as part of our safety plan, that we have to have that disaster recovery failover. So this without this connection, we cannot have real-time failover.
Got it. And then I guess the last question is, if this technology has been implemented elsewhere quite a while ago, why are we just hopping on it now?
So we have been able to get by with the virtual private networking, and through our previous franchise agreements with Comcast, we were able to get that basic internet connection for free. And that basic internet connection was not enough anyhow. So we've had to pay for higher speed internet connections just to try to make the buildings connect. The reason why we're able to do that now, there's one reason. I guess there's two answers to your question. One is, one question would be, well, why are we able to do it now? It's because it was approved as part of the COA. And step two is why did we wait to do this till now? And it's just because all the added technology we've been putting into place, such as facility video, our Avail project, for being able to view bus video, all of this stuff has been adding more and more strain. So I guess it can be akin to a restaurant that is booked up on reservations every night, and needing to add more tables. So yes, it's worked fine for years, but now we need to add some more tables, more space.
Okay. Sounds good. Just trying to kind of figure out the two sort of underlying points to what you were telling us there. Okay, Bonnie, any further questions?
Nope. I'll make a motion. We pass this on to the full body of council with a positive recommendation.
Second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. For H, a resolution authorizing a maintenance agreement between RVT and, is that K1 or Cone?
Coney.
Cone? Oh, geez. Okay.
It sounds a little funny, but this one is our elevator, or two elevators, I apologize, at the Church Street parking deck. They are Coney elevators. So, for years, I forget exactly when the parking deck was built, but we've had service agreements throughout the years. Prior to myself being here, there was a 5-year agreement. That 5-year agreement ended on May 1st of this year. And the goal was to bring a new agreement to council for 2021 into 2022. It does make complete sense to stick with the manufacturer of the elevator. as it will be cheaper to purchase parts versus having markup from another elevator company purchasing those parts from Coney. So this agreement would be for the 2 elevators. There is a lengthy list of items that they will do, including inspections, various items. It is for the amount of $11,640. For anybody that's not aware, labor and industry does come in and do a inspection of your elevator every year. And then they also have a 5-year major inspection, which is your load test. So this would definitely keep us in full compliance and assist with any issues we may have with the elevators themselves.
Got it, Adam. And where's this money coming from?
This is from the non-transit account for the Church Street parking deck, which money is generated from the sales of parking spaces as well as the rental to the Susquehanna Trailways buses and what's the name of the other company there, Josh?
Fullington.
Fullington, I'm sorry.
Okay. And there's ample money in the account for this.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And the 1-year contract coming to us 5 months late?
It's because I was not aware of this contract until recently and just trying to get everything squared away.
Okay. Bonnie?
No questions.
Okay. I'll take a motion then, Bonnie.
Make a motion to pass this on the full body of council with a positive recommendation.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Okay. And moving on to the next item on the agenda. Oop, as I just skip right past it. Item number 9, a resolution authorizing an agreement between RVT and Choice Carpet Cleaners Incorporated. Mr. Winder?
This is essentially we're requesting to extend an agreement. I'm going to call it an agreement, but it was a proposal from Choice Carpet that we received in 2020 as a request for quotes. We would like to put this out for a full RFP. The original quote that we received from them was good for 1 year of service. There's 2 rates. One rate is $75 per day, and that is for the Trade and Transit facility or Trade and Transit 2 facility, which is cleaning the stairways, cleaning the transit center, the driver's lounge, essentially any area that falls under transit. That is $78 per day to clean. The other one is for the 1500 West 3rd Street facility, and that amount is $78 per day. But with all the movement of city and everybody, we feel now that we've got everybody located in a facility, we would like to put an RFP out to, get professional services for a longer term cleaning company. And we would look to have that out and in front of council prior to March 1st for council's approval. And that would encompass RVT and city facilities all in one.
Got it. Bonnie?
So what you're doing is you just want us to extending this contract to March, but in the interim, you're going to put an RFP out to see what happens after March 1st. Is this
Yes,
what
ma'am.
I'm understanding?
Yes, ma'am. We're going to work with John Sanders to have it put on pen bid and try to drum up as many vendors as possible to want to give us a price on their cleaning services for our buildings.
Okay.
And just so that I understand that, Adam, the intent would be that the city and RVT would be dividing this cost because the city is occupying some RVT structures?
Correct. What we would do is spell out in the RFP, the city areas that would be cleaned versus the RVT areas that would be cleaned.
Okay. Understood. I think. But then the city would be locked into a 1-year contract at that point?
Yes, Choice has been the cleaning service for the city of Williamsport for the last 6 years, 5 years.
Yeah.
So
I-
this,
Mhm.
you know, transition, whoever that person would be, if we were to move back to City Hall or move to another facility, it would definitely just transition that person or that cleaning company with the city themselves. It would be at a per day rate. We did have a janitor 5, 6 years ago.
Yeah, I remember.
And we have learned that having a cleaning company definitely saves the city significant money.
Right. Yeah, I agree with all of that. I just wanted to make certain that we weren't locking ourselves into, I mean, even just within Trade and Transit 2 and Trade and Transit 1, a specific arrangement. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because we have been talking about a number of different sort of moves to reutilize some of those spaces, even if we remain in more or less the same space. So
Right,
when and if we execute a contract in conjunction with RVT, which makes me a bit nervous in some ways, but when and if we execute that contract, it will be changeable to reflect the city's cleaning needs moving
Yeah,
forward.
I mean, I guess my thought was there would be one contract for the transit side, one contract for the city side. And as we do with everything, we would put a 30-day out clause in, and also a clause that, you know, this contract could be reviewed and adjusted upon movement of city facilities.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, sorry, just some questions about that, as long as because March 1st is going to be, I think, before we've probably arrived at any final conclusions about a number of things. So, but that's it. Bonnie, if you don't have anything further, I'll take
I
a
make a
motion.
motion, we pass this on to the full body of council with a positive recommendation.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and oh shoot, the final item on our, not quite final, the final named item on our agenda today is a resolution for an MOU between RVT and Amalgamated Transit Union ATU Local 1496. Mr. Winder?
So in, I want to say, May of 2021, the AFSCME local and the ATU Amalgamated Transit Union, they both kind of, I want to call it, got into a battle over who could unionize some of the staff at RVT, the office staff, IT staff, some of the IT staff, the cleaning staff for the buses, etc. Our information specialists at RVT and the transit center. It did end up going to the labor board. I did include some documents there that I had received from the labor board. ATU was awarded that they could unionize those employees that are listed in here. Therefore, it was brought back to us that, you know, we have to allow them to unionize these positions. Naturally, the last thing we would want to do is open a contract or get into any type of real negotiations. So the ATU was okay with just accepting the classification or the job descriptions that we presented to council. The pay rates are included in that last page of your packet. And we would just references a simple MOU using the resolution brought before you, as well as the job classifications. The union 100% agreed to that. So with council's blessing, we would just essentially put these in with the contract, and when the contract is up at the end of its term, they could then naturally include the language completely in the contract at that point. But as I said, we didn't want to get into opening a contract and trying to get into negotiations of any sort, because that naturally could have blew up in our faces and created more havoc for everybody. So this was the simplest way.
What you're saying, Mr. Winder, is that we are required via arbitration to include these positions in the union?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay, decision of the labor board anyway. And how many individuals are affected by this?
6.
Okay. Got it. And then, just to follow up, because yeah, this does not strike me as a desirable development, but it's also not an optional development.
Liz,
Correct.
when I looked at all this, and we've already, their contract has already gone through,
Mhm.
to me, I wouldn't pass this on. I would pass this on to the full body of council with no recommendation. From the standpoint, I would like to hear what the rest of council would have to say about this.
I'm fine with that, Bonnie. But if Adam Winder is saying that we have to accept it, that's a different matter from this being a choice the administration made for some reason or another. If this is the result, a labor board ruling or arbitration, then to a certain extent, it's already been decided.
But but why wasn't this brought up when we just approved that, the contract was approved, what, a month ago?
No. The ATU's contract was approved last year.
Oh, last year? Okay.
And this started this year with AFSCME trying to rally and kind of take on more members from the transit side. And then because ATU basically said, you can't just take employees from the transit side and roll them into your union. It ended up in front of a labor board. And I can see if Jill Nagy could be on Thursday night, because she actually went and was involved in the labor board discussions to represent River Valley Transit.
The problem I'm looking at, Adam, is that 3 of these look like they're all IT people. And since this is union, then what we're doing is we're also using the union employees for IT with the city. I mean, there's such,
It only affects one IT person, and that's Cameron. Is the only one. He would be what we classify him as right now is an IT trainee, because it is always great when you can find somebody in-house that has abilities that you can build off of. So Cameron would be the only one IT related that would fall under the contract.
But why is it saying information specialist, information technology trainee? That's him. And information technology technician.
Okay. Information specialist is like the individuals down at the transit center that sell passes. They're nothing to do with IT. They sell passes. They let people know what time the bus is going to be where.
And the information technology technician?
That would be a position that Cameron could work towards instead of just being a trainee.
But it's not filled at this point?
No.
But you have salaries listed for this.
Right, because you have to put that in the contract as the next stepping stone that a person could get to, just like the streets and parks contract. We put an HVAC technician and an HVAC technician helper in there. We're not filling those positions, but because it was a negotiated position by the union, we had to put it in there. What the trainee position did was gave me an opportunity to have Cameron at a lower rate and let him learn and progress to the next rate. As far as financially, all these positions are in our operating budget currently, and we're paying for them. All we're doing is allowing them to roll into the union. And actually the people are going to lose some money because they're going to pay union dues at this point.
Okay.
I mean, as far as the union, the individuals aren't gaining anything because they still, except for because there was a pay freeze this year. Anybody that's not in the union just did not get a raise, they still follow the same items in the union contract here. Holidays, vacations, sick. All those items, the only thing they didn't get this year was a pay raise.
Okay, so, all right, Liz, go.
No, that's fine, Bonnie. But they're no longer at-will employees. Correct? They did already carry the same pensions, healthcare, et cetera. Adam?
Correct. Yeah, they're just no longer at-will employees. They'll have union representation should something go wrong. Which
Right.
hopefully with the individuals that are going there, we've never had an issue, so hopefully we never do.
Hopefully, yeah. But yeah, just to clarify, I mean, there is a potential cost, at least to the city involved in that. But if this is mandated, then it's mandated, and there's not really a whole lot we can do about it. Am I understanding from you, it's mandated, correct?
Correct. And I mean, the other part of it is nothing says that the individuals even have to join the union. They could remain as at-will employees if they'd like. The new law is that, yes, the union gets to hold those classifications, but people are not required to join the union.
Okay, got it. So the union incorporates those classifications, and then anyone we hire under those classifications is offered the opportunity to be in the union.
Correct. They have the right to say yes or no.
Got it. Do we have anyone within the city who is in a union eligible position who isn't a member of one of the union in question?
We did until she left the fire department and came to RVT. Renee Smith was the administrative aide at the fire department, which under the city hall contract, by all rights, she could have fell in the union.
Okay, got it. And now will she have the opportunity to enter the union through this adjustment to the contract, or is she already in the union?
No, they do not have any administrative aid, anything of that nature. The biggest things they were looking at were like the cleaners out back, because they work directly with the maintenance department.
Right.
The one person in IT and the information specialist, because they sell passes, they work directly with the movement of the buses, to say.
Got it. Okay. All right. I think we've gotten into the weeds enough on this one. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
Bonnie? Any other questions right now?
I have no more questions.
Okay. If you want to forward this with no recommendation, I'm A-okay with that. I understand your hesitation. I don't know that we have an option, but that doesn't mean that it's not worthy of a full kind of airing in the council meeting on Thursday.
I understand where Adam's going, but I would still like to do a no recommendation. Make a motion,
Okay.
we pass this on with no recommendation.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Then the final item on our agenda today is any related items. Does anyone have anything to introduce